So if you're just coming here for a visit, or maybe you're considering making 401 your new area code, well, Rhode Island, it's a tiny state with a big secret. It's awesome living here. We've got some problems, big and small, but we've got communities with deep roots, big hearts, a shared love of the ocean, and food. Hey there, I'm Jess Powers. I'm a local realtor and I serve buyers and sellers throughout Rhode Island. And today I'm going to tell you some of my favorite things about Little Rhodey, and I'm going to do it right now. All right, so at 48 miles north to south and 37 miles east to west, Rhode Island is the smallest state in the US, but we've got nearly 400 miles of shoreline, including its 30 plus islands. We've got a world-renowned culinary scene. We've got picturesque seaside villages. We've got incredible beaches and more. There's just so much to love about living in Rhode Island. Now, as a girl, I grew up on a farm in a small town in the Midwest. And I've always considered one of the things I love about Rhode Island is the size. That to be one of my favorite things about this state. It's kind of like a small town. You know, that 6 degrees of separation, well, it's been whittled down to about 2 degrees here. And I, for one, I enjoy that connectedness of the state. I may not know you, but there's a chance that if you've been here for a while, it's not going to take us long to find a mutual connection. And it doesn't matter where you travel to, you will inevitably run into a mutual Rhode Islander. All right, so let's talk about my favorite subject, second to real estate, of course, and that is food. Providence in particular has this amazing culinary scene, but there are great restaurants really, truly throughout the whole state. We've got a lot of small farms that provide fresh, locally sourced ingredients, including amazing seafood. We've got some food items that are very specific to Rhode Island, like we've got coffee milk. It's basically like chocolate milk, only instead of chocolate, you've got coffee syrup. It's not really my thing, but those that grew up here, they seem to get really nostalgic over it when they think of coffee milk. Onlyville's New York Systems, they serve coffee milk at the counter. Get it all the way? No, what is it? Get it 3 all the way. Another Rhode Island classic is Del's Lemonade or Mr. Lemonade, depends on where you grew up, which will determine which rival you prefer. I mean, in any case, it's the summer confection. It's basically a lemonade slushie with little bits of lemon peel. Actually, it's amazing. I have fully embraced this tradition and I look forward to that seasonal treat as a welcome sign that summer has finally arrived. We've got about 180 Dunkin' Donuts, which makes it feel like they're literally on every single corner. It's ideal for giving directions. People do love their coffee and their donuts here. So let's take a minute to highlight Rhode Island's seafood industry. As the ocean state, there are so many great clam shacks and seafood restaurants all throughout the state. Some of my favorites, there's Bucktown in Providence. They've got the best fish sandwich, I think. There's Los Andes, they're a Peruvian restaurant. They've got a fresh catch of the day. They've got the best ceviche around. There's Iggy's Doughboy and Chowder House. They've got locations down in Narragansett and also Warwick. You can get Rhode Island style chowder, that's no cream, and you can get clam cakes, which if you're not from around here, sounds kind of gross because who wants cake and clams at the same time? Ow! But it turns out they are actually like corn fritters with bits of clams, and they are absolutely delicious. Especially when you dunk them in the chowder. Yum. Blount's, that's another clam shack. That's in Warren. They've got amazing fish and chips. They've also got lobster rolls. Matunic Oyster Bar, that's down in South County, where you can enjoy locally sourced oysters on their beautiful deck on the water. Hey, if you really love oysters, take an adventure, Google Rhode Island Oyster Trail, and you'll find this huge list of restaurants that feature local oysters. I mean, I literally could go on and on and on, and I'm just talking about seafood. I'm actually working on individual videos on my favorite spots for tacos, pizza, brunch, you name it. I'm gonna put a video on because there's just so much to talk about. From Italian delis and bakeries to pizza joints, diners, ethnic restaurants, there's just so many award-winning fine dining establishments all throughout the state. There is literally something for everyone, and a lot of them are independently owned. Really, all packed into our tiny little state. All right, so there's also stuff to do. A girl's gotta eat, but wondering what else is so great about Rhode Island other than our food? Well, hey, how about our incredible beaches? Narragansett Beach, that was ranked as one of New England's top beaches on the East Coast. And I love that our coastline isn't congested with high-rise hotels. We don't have them. There are 8 state beaches, and each one, they're all unique. There's Narragansett Beach, Charlestown Beachway, Mesquamaket. There's just so many to name. There's also a ton of secret beaches, and then there's town beaches, and then there's all these beautiful campgrounds such as Fisherman's Memorial. There's just so much to see, and I haven't even talked about Block Island or Prudence Island or Newport for that matter. I'm just gonna have to save those for other videos because there's just too much. Now, if you're in Providence, it's gonna take you about 45 minutes to get down to Narragansett Beach, or if you prefer to head to the East Bay region of the state, that's also gonna take you about 45 minutes to get to First Beach in Newport. Yeah, the water is a bit chilly, but in the summertime and even all the way into early fall, the water is absolutely perfect. If you want to go surfing, Point Judith is the popular spot for that. Boogie boards are great everywhere else. Hey, maybe the ocean isn't your thing. Well, guess what? We've got lots of opportunities for kayaking. We've got beautiful coves. We've got beautiful Whitford Harbor. Or we've got rivers such as the Kickamuit River in Warren, which takes you all the way down to Bristol. Or on the other side of the state, we've got the Wood River. That's in Richmond, Hopkinton, and Exeter. The Wood River is really pristine. It's this beautiful spot for fishermen because of its clean, really cold water. The DEM stocks that with hatchery-raised brook trout, and there are also a lot of wild brook trout and all the tributaries in the upper reaches. It's a beautiful kayak. Another thing that I really love about the western region of the state, you've got all of these big tall pine trees that remind me of West Texas. This is where you're going to find some of my favorite hiking trails. Now, our terrain is really pretty easygoing. Those are easy hikes, but they're really well managed and really nicely maintained trails. Go to alltrails.com. That's one of my favorite spots to find local trails. Now, what about if you love lighthouses? Well, be sure to check out Beaver Tail State Park. That's in Jamestown. You're going to find the oldest lighthouse in the state that was put up in 1749, and there are 15 working lighthouses and then a bunch of others. It's really a fun day trip or a weekend adventure just going from site to site. You're going to see a lot of the coastline that way. Let's talk about autumn in New England. It's spectacular, and Rhode Island does not disappoint, especially if you love pumpkin patches, corn mazes, apple picking, cider donuts, my favorite. We've just got so many working farms and lots of options to keep you and the family busy every weekend. Farm Fresh Rhode Island, that's my favorite site for finding local farms. Lots of you-pick options, farmers markets. Hey, speaking of you-pick farms, Wicked Tulip Flower Farm. That's a you-pick tulip farm in New England. It's spectacular. There are like 800,000 planted tulips. It's my go-to mood lifter in the spring. Now, a note about the weather. Let's talk about it. Depending on who you ask and what the weather is like in that moment, you'll be told the weather is either perfect or terrible. Honestly, I think New Englanders' favorite pastime is to complain about the weather. And you know, it does change, sometimes a lot, even in just one day in the extremes, but hey, I love the distinct seasons all throughout the year. You know, typically the eastern side of the state doesn't get as much snow as the western region, nor as hard hit as Boston. And if it's super hot and humid in Providence, well, you just take a quick drive down to the coast and it's going to be at least 10 degrees cooler. It is bitterly cold in January and February. It sucks. Yep. And March is kind of a mixed bag. It's typically really still cold and dreary, and there is a good chance we're going to get snow even into early April. We get a lot of rain in April, but the daffodils are usually in bloom by about the middle of the month. Honestly, it doesn't really feel like summer until about mid-June. July and August are usually pretty hot, and fall, well, it's gorgeous. And like I said, like so many small farms and orchard, apple picking, corn mazes, there's just a ton of stuff to do through that sort of October, November moderate weather. Usually we'll have a light dusting of snow around Christmas time. All right, let's talk about the cost of living in Rhode Island. Now, I've got a lot of real estate clients that are coming from other areas, especially places like Boston, Brooklyn, Nashville, some of those more expensive places. It's usually summed up with two reasons that people are choosing Providence and the surrounding communities instead of those areas. First, they're priced out of those areas. It's just too expensive. Now, prices here are definitely going up. According to our Rhode Island Association of Realtors, single-family home sales were up nearly 10% year over year. The median price of those sales hit nearly over $400,000 this spring. But hey, depending on where you look, you can still find a lot of homes in that price range of $350,000 to $450,000, sometimes even less. You know, it is competitive. We've got low inventory, but you can find them. Whereas in Boston, prices keep going up. The median price last I checked was around $680, almost hitting that $700,000 mark. There's just no way you're gonna find a single family home under $500,000 anywhere near Boston. It just doesn't exist anymore unless it needs a total gut job. And even then, you're gonna be hard pressed. So the fact is, you can get bigger homes for less money in most of the communities throughout Rhode Island. Okay, and let's talk about commuting for a minute. All right, face it, it often takes an hour to commute to Boston from Boston. So why not move to Rhode Island where it is so much cheaper and the commute is basically the same? You know, our commuter rail has an easy to get to location. We've got one in downtown Providence. It's a bus and a train hub. There's also another one that's being built in Pawtucket. There was one in South Attleboro, but they shut that one down. The one in Pawtucket is gonna be the best one. And you know, now so many companies are offering remote work that's what makes Rhode Island even more appealing. Okay, what if you're a renter? Well, our rental market continues to go up, but you still can get more space and amenities than you can other cities. Our average rental right now is around $1,800, give or take. Sometimes you can find one for around $16, maybe a little bit less. That's really changed. Providence rentals, they're really pushing up that number, especially on the west end of Providence or the east side, which means that affordable housing continues to be a problem for sure. Now you can still find a decent rental options, again, around that $1,600 to $1,800. But if you're gonna spend more than that, you might actually just wanna consider looking into what it's gonna cost you and if you can qualify to buy a house, because it might just be a much better option. All right, so now if you want to know more about individual towns, check out my other videos, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be posting more and more videos. I posted links of some of the places that I mentioned in the comments. Hey, I'd love to hear about your favorite things in the state. So feel free to comment if you have something useful to say. And you know, if you're considering making a move, well, reach out. I'm always here to help, but I can't help you if I don't hear from you.